Horse and Friends Radio with Conrad and Raphael.
Hey, I'm Conrad Nodden.
And I'm Raphael Valle. And from Nashville, Tennessee, you're listening to
The Horse and Friends Radio Show. Of the horse, for the horse, and by the horse lovers everywhere. Okay, Raphael, let's make this one an even dozen, all the way up to show number 12. And we're going to take a trip to Hollywood as far as the book and the author. Tell us who we've got this week.
Yeah, well, we have a great horsewoman, producer, writer for Horse Illustrated.
Author,
absolutely. And, comes from a legendary Hollywood family, which leads right into her project, the book, Hollywood Hoofbeats.
Yeah, Robert Mitchum's daughter, Petrine Mitchum. Yeah. Okay. Now, also, we still have some great sponsors, and let's hear from them now.
Hi, this is Raphael for the Holistic Horse Products, a family-owned business. Recent scientific studies indicate that the traditional and chemical methods for deworming are harmful to horses as the worms and parasites build up an immunity to these chemical products. Let me share with you an effective 100% natural deworming product that I have been using on Ivory Pal and my other horses successfully for the last 3 years. It is Omni Worm Guard Plus with Immune Boost and Probiotics by the Holistic Horse, the gold standard of all natural dewormers. It provides a natural, non-chemical warmer with food-grade PermaGuard fossil shell flour. This keeps Ivory Pal worm-free on a consistent basis, but also contains Immune Boost to help him build a good immune system to assist in warding off disease. In addition to this, it contains 5 very powerful and very necessary probiotics to keep Ivory Pal's digestive system in balance. To keep your horse healthy, purchase Omni Worm Guard Plus with Immune Boost and probiotics. Please visit www.theholistichorse.com or call 1-877-774-0594.
Hello, my name is Sam Tune.
And I'm his wife, Mary.
We would like to welcome you to pure Southern country charm here at Magnolia Valley Estates, 30 miles south of Nashville, Tennessee, conveniently located between I-24 and I-65. The valley is private and secluded, yet it is convenient to vineyards, golf courses, area lakes, retail shopping, shopping centers, fine schools, Middle Tennessee State University.
But this valley is different because we have something very special here.
We have a world-class equestrian center adjoining 38 magnificent lots ranging from 1 to 10 acres, all underground utilities, natural gas, and city water. Here at Magnolia Valley, you have the opportunity to stable your horse at our facility when you purchase one of our lots. You don't have to own a horse. You can still enjoy the lifestyle and take advantages of this wonderful community. I can guarantee this. I'm the mayor of this community, and Mary and I own this beautiful valley. Come and see your next fantastic building lot with powerful buyer incentives. Welcome to Magnolia Valley, the good life.
The absolute real thing.
When your best horse needs the very best video. When your farm needs to look absolutely fabulous. When your special event needs multi-camera, professional coverage. When you need a theme-based movie. And of course, special effects. Then you need Malibu Video Productions, now in Nashville. Okay, Raphael, on the line, we have an accomplished horsewoman, award-winning filmmaker and photojournalist, an unrelenting advocate of the humane treatment of horses, a highly sought-after event speaker on equine matters, and the daughter of a legendary Hollywood actor, and the author of the very insightful book, Hollywood Hoofbeats, trails blazed across the silver screen, and welcome, Petrine Mitchum.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah, we're so glad to have you on our show, Petrine, and I've been fortunate enough to have your book here, and it's just a wonderful piece of art, what I call it, because you definitely put a lot of heart and energy into it, and it's just a masterpiece. So we're excited to introduce your book and you to our listeners.
Well, thank you. I also want to mention my co-author, Audrey Pavia, who helped me so much with research and organizing the book, because as you can imagine, it was a tremendous amount of material to organize. We start with the very beginning of the motion picture industry and go up to 2005 when the book was completed. So it's quite a lot of material to cover, so I couldn't have done it without Audrey's help. So
well,
I want to mention her as well.
The two of you worked very well together. I guess she's a former editor of Horse Illustrated magazine, and she also is an award-winning freelance writer and on equine subjects. So the two of you worked really, really well, and it was a monumental task to get all of that historical evidence together.
And the pictures and everything.
We were, it was really a combination of a lot of hard work, and we got very lucky, too, with being able to interview some of the legendary wranglers like Corky Randall, who trained the Black Stallion, and before he passed away, which he did a couple of years ago. So we were very, very lucky. Our timing was good, and people were just so really generous with their time and their memories while we were doing our research.
Tell us just a little bit about Donna Hall, if you would. You dedicated the book to her? Yes. Well, Donna Hall was a trick rider and a fabulous stunt woman who I knew personally. When I was writing this book, I was living in an area of Burbank, California, known as the Rancho area, and as it turned out, that's where many of the famous movie stables were, and many famous movie horses actually lived in that neighborhood where I was living at the time, including Mr. Ed and Fury. So anyway, Donna and her husband Jay stabled their horses where I stabled mine, and we used to ride together, and they introduced me to an awful lot of people in the movie business, horse movie business, and they were just very, very helpful, and Donna was just a terrific woman. And if you or any of your listeners remember the old Annie Oakley TV show, there's a wonderful trick riding sequence that opens that show, Annie Oakley doing all kinds of tricks on the running drag and all these fabulous tricks that are just amazing. And that's actually Donna Hall doubling Gail Davis, who played Annie Oakley.
Canada Dry presents Annie Oakley. Annie Oakley hits the entertainment bullseye with hard riding, suspense, and her world-famous straight shooting. Brought to you by America's Ginger Upper, Canada Dry Ginger Ale, the pure, light, delicious refresher.
And Donna was just a great friend, and she passed away while the book was being written, so I did want to dedicate the book to her.
Oh, that was very nice. Yep. Very nice.
One of a kind.
We want to mention briefly for our listeners, obviously your name is Petrine Mitchum. You are the daughter of the legendary Hollywood actor Robert Mitchum, and I understand that you started riding a horse at a very early age. Your dad did, of course, too. I guess his horse's name was Steel. Was that it?
Well, no, he actually... let's see, that's a couple of different questions. I was first put on a horse when I was about 2, but then when I was 8, my dad bought a ranch, or I guess a farm, because it was on the East Coast, in the eastern shore of Maryland, and he started raising quarter horses. We had some of the first performance horses in the state of Maryland back in, 1960. So, but before that, unbeknownst to me, he had appeared in some westerns. He really got his first starring role in a Western called Nevada, and in that movie he rode a horse called Steel. And Steel was a very famous movie horse that many movie stars rode. In fact, I have in Hollywood Hoofbeats, there's a series of photographs of different people riding Steel, from John Wayne, Gary Cooper, Clark Gable, Joel McRae loved Steel, and he was a flashy chestnut horse with a blazed face and stockings, and so he was very good looking, and kind of a flaxen mane and tail. So he was very, very striking looking, but he was also very well behaved. So he was kind of a babysitter for stars that didn't know how to ride very well, which my father didn't in the beginning of his career. So he was lucky enough to be put on Steel in his very first starring role in a Western.
Did your love of horses stem from your father's interest in horses because of the movies and all?
Well, certainly my exposure to horses came from my father. I was very, very fortunate to be surrounded by wonderful horses when I was little, and then I got interested in jumping horses and hunters, so I kind of went off in my own direction for a while. But certainly I was lucky enough that we had wonderful horses on our farm, and I had an opportunity to bond with them and really develop an affection for them. And my dad's interest was mostly in breeding. He really didn't ride very much. He liked looking at the horses and he liked breeding the horses, but beyond his movie career, I didn't really see him get on a horse much. He just really liked to, he enjoyed owning them and watching them, but he really didn't ride all that much, which is kind of funny. But my brother Christopher and I were the riders in the family.
Oh.
You have a horse right now. His name is Photo Op?
I do. Photo Op he's actually a retired quarter horse racehorse, and he's living the life of Riley on a 1,500-acre
I love the name.
ranch.
That's a pretty unique name, Photo Op.
Yes, his nickname, however, is Rocket, and he's out on 300 acres with a bunch of other retired horses.
Was Rocket? Was Rocket because he used to be fast when he was younger?
Yes, he was a racehorse, so he was pretty fast. And then I have a horse that I ride who's a little dun quarter horse named Genuine Rascal Jack, and his nickname is Dylan, and we actually went on a lovely trail ride this morning.
Oh, outstanding. So, you can't beat that.
Yeah.
I enjoyed your quote regarding your book, and perhaps one of the reasons for it. You mentioned movies without horses. There would be no Westerns, no cowboys named John Wayne, no Gone with the Wind, no Ben-Hur, no Dances with Wolves, no Gladiator, no Seabiscuit, nor The Black Stallion. And, that's really true. Those movies promoted the love of horses and a viewpoint toward horses that just wouldn't be there without those movies.
Really, the first line of my book, Chapter 1, is the first movie star was a horse, and that's actually true. There was a photo study of the horse in motion by a photographer named Edward Muybridge that came about as a bet by Leland Stanford, who was a former governor of California who had trotting horses in Palo Alto, and he bet a friend of his that at one time in high trot gait, a horse would have all 4 feet airborne. And in order to prove this, he hired this photographer to set up cameras all around the track. And the cameras went off at intervals and captured in fractions of a seconds the horse going around the track at a high trot. And when these photos were looked at sequentially, you could actually see that, yes, in fact, the horse was airborne at a certain point in his high trot. So these photographs were considered really the first motion pictures, and out of this, the motion picture industry really evolved, which is kind of extraordinary. And early filmmakers like Thomas Edison they were just riveted by the motion of horses. So a lot of the very, very early movies, which are maybe just under a minute long, would feature horses because they were just so interesting to watch.
Indeed,
so
captivating.
Really, I I like to say the movie industry was really started on the back of a horse.
Yeah,
well, makes sense.
Yeah, a lot of things too. The Industrial Revolution, transportation, they've played such an important role in the development of and progress of society. Yeah, right down to the movies. Yeah, and I remember as a kid sitting there watching the Black Stallion, and him, Alec, is I think the little boy's name, playing with the horse and running around on the beach at Liberty, then riding him bareback through the surf. And I know he's featured in your book, and you have a beautiful picture of Alec riding the Black Stallion, or as he called him, the Black in the movie, riding him there on the surf, just bareback and just enjoying it. I think to this day I still think about that movie.
Petrine, what was most challenging about writing the book? Any creative work requires quite a bit of sacrifice, quite a bit of struggle in most cases. What were you faced with in order to really bring this thing to press?
Well, the hardest thing really was having to cut things. I mean, having to fit the publisher's criteria of word count, and and I wanted to use a lot more photos. So that was the hardest thing, was editing down, because there's so much more material, and that was difficult for me. I could have just gone on, and actually hoping to turn the project into a documentary film, which is how I first started, and then I got sidetracked with the book offer, and so there's just so much material. So it was just really kind of wrangling that material was the hardest thing, and deciding what horses would make the cut and what to focus on, but we were really fortunate to get so much great material.
Now, you've gone pretty deep into finding information and researching a lot of things. Obviously, you did for the book. You researched some things, if I understand correctly, also for Gene Autry Entertainment. Is that so?
Yes, I did. I was very, very fortunate enough to work with Carla Bullman, who is the head of Gene Autry Entertainment and Gene Autry Enterprises, and Maxine Hansen, and they opened up their archives to me, and I was able to really look at a lot of photographs and even film of Gene Autry and the various horses that played champion over Gene's long career, because Gene did have a very long career, and he had, as I've been able to identify, 6 main horses playing champion. So that information is on the Gene Autry official website. So if anybody's interested in Gene Autry and his horses champion, you can check out that website. And as I said, they were very, very helpful in opening their archives to me.
Speaking of Gene Autry, and I guess we're going to talk just briefly about Roy Rogers with Trigger coming up here soon, but the next show coming out next Wednesday, of course, when this airs, it's going to be past, but our next show is with a cowboy singer that you may know, or at least may know of, Don Edwards. And and we had a great interview with him, and he was talking about how, speaking of Gene Autry, how at his 90th birthday, Gene paid he gave tribute to Gene, and then Gene talked to him about it, and also Roy Rogers gave some high compliments to Don Edwards too. So it's interesting how some of our shows are tying in with each other as we go along here, you know?
Conrad and I went through the book. It was like little kids just enjoying, look at these pictures. Oh my God, here's Trigger, here's the Black Stallion, here's the Man from Snow River. So one of the ones that it's a personal favorite of mine. All horses are, but this one's is obviously a favorite of mine because I also have a golden Palomino stallion. But let's talk about Trigger.
Well, Trigger is an extraordinary horse, and the original Trigger, the Roy's original Trigger, was a registered Palomino, half thoroughbred stallion named Golden Cloud, and he had been acquired by one of the big Hollywood rental stables, the Hudkins Brothers stables, from the ranch of Crash Corrigan, who was another cowboy star, and Golden Cloud was very, very young when he made his movie debut, which was in The Adventures of Robin Hood, starring Errol Flynn, and the actress Olivia de Havilland wrote him. so there's a wonderful scene where she's riding him through Sherwood Forest, and you just can see right away from the wide blaze on his face and his long forelock that it's Trigger. And Roy said when he first got on Trigger and rode him down the street, he said he never looked back. That was the horse he wanted. He was just
Petrine, very interesting on that note. The show that will broadcast right before yours, we interviewed Roy Rogers Jr., and he told us all about that same thing with Golden Cloud and how Roy, I think it was Smiley Burnett, said, Roy, that horse can turn quickly on a dime, or he's quick on the trigger, I guess was the expression. And Roy says, yeah, I like that. We're going to call him Trigger.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Oh, there's a movie called My Pal Trigger, which came out in 1946, and the naming scene of Trigger is kind of recreated in that movie. It's kind of cute. But it was Smiley Burnett who came up with the name.
A little bit on a somewhat sadder note. Tell us about Hightower.
Oh, golly. Well, Hightower is an extraordinary horse, a modern horse who appeared in Horse Whisperer and many, many modern movies. And he played in Black Beauty. He actually had played a mare in Black Beauty. And, oh gosh, he was a beautiful chestnut horse owned and trained by Rex Peterson. And he just had an amazing willingness and aptitude to be trained for movies. He just had extraordinary temperament, which is what really, in addition to good looks, the temperament and the willingness and quietness to be on a film set with all the craziness that goes on with lights and things being moved around and noise and so on. It's a particular horse that can take that kind of pressure and perform. And Hightower was one that just really was excellent. And Rex Peterson, who was his owner-trainer, was a protege of Glenn Randall, who trained Trigger. And he trained Hightower. And Hightower passed away, I think it's now 2 years ago. But he was in his late 20s when he passed away, so he lived a pretty good long life and did a lot of excellent work. I was very, very fortunate when I went to interview Rex Peterson. He actually took me on a trail ride, and I got to ride Hightower.
Oh, that's nice. It's very sad, though, isn't it, when a companion like that is a wonderful horse, they die. It's like losing a member of the family sometimes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. No, it's excruciating. And but one thing that I was surprised to learn in writing this book was that so many of the movie horses, the star horses, and particularly the stunt horses, I found this was interesting, lived to be sometimes even into their 30s. And trained horses that are trained for stunts like falling, you would think that might be really hard on them. But actually, they would just come out and do their stunts, and they're actually trained to fall, and the ground is always dug up and made soft. Maybe there's sawdust put down so that they're not falling on a hard surface. And they're used actually quite sparingly. And these horses are treated like the athletes that they were. So they actually lived quite long, and like I said, sometimes into their 30s. So I was kind of amazed to hear that.
Yeah, because you see those falls, and you always wonder, okay, how long is that horse going to be around? But that's really good to know. That's a great thing to know. And you also mentioned how these horses have a certain, I guess, horsetionality or personality, and how they just cooperate for the camera and be still. I like the part in your book where you're talking about the inspiration for Spirit, the Disney movie, where I guess the horse's name, he was actually a Tiger Mustang, and his name was
a Tiger Mustang, and he actually lives up near me in Lompoc, California, at a wonderful wild horse rescue called Return to Freedom. And it's a wonderful organization run by a woman named Netta DeMeo, and she is actively rescuing entire herds of wild horses. And giving them a permanent home. And she's actually looking for more land and so on. But she does have Spirit. He lives there. He's kind of the ambassador there. And she's got a website, so if your listeners are interested, they can go on the returntofreedom.org website and see pictures of Spirit. He was the living model for the animated horse Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron, which is a wonderful movie written by a very, very talented man and a great horse lover, John Fusco, who also wrote the movie Hidalgo, another one of my modern favorite movies.
Excellent.
Yeah, I like in your book you write, this is always a little funny, where he said he was chosen for Spirit because of his great personality, his lovely gaits, and his willingness to pose for hours. Well, the animation copied his confirmation. What a ham!
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. A lot of I would hear time and time again how horses are sort of hammy, and that they wouldn't know when the camera was on them and really come to life. In fact, Marilyn Monroe has a famous quote that she was about to make a movie with horses, and I believe it was The Misfits with Clark Gable, and someone asked her if she was worried about working with such a big star, and she said, "It's not him I'm worried about; it's those hammy horses."
Yeah.
But, it is true that a lot of the real veteran movie star horses do know when that camera's on them, and they do kind of come to life.
Petrine, maybe tell us a little bit about light hands.
The light hands horsemanship?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Well, it's a kind of a method of training, which is really what it says, light hands, not using force, being very, very light and communicating with your horse. And, it's very much the kind of the modern popular way to ride now, not to be heavy-handed, really, is just really what it's all about.
This show is all about that, really. We've interwoven that thread all the way from the first show with Marianne Kennedy singing her songs about that same idea all the way through the end. And in fact, we were talking to Tommy Turvey, the equine extremist, and he was saying, I get into the horse's head, find out what he wants to do. I don't have to beat him or anything to train him.
That's absolutely right. And, in talking to great trainers like Corky Randall, son of Glenn Randall, and who trained Black Stallion, Corky trained Black Stallion, and Rex Peterson, who trained Hightower, and so many other great trick horses. They say, if you're hard on these horses, if you hurt them, they're not going to do these tricks. They're not going to perform for you. So I'm talking about horses that perform at liberty, and you're not going to get a horse to do anything if he's going to be hurt, if he thinks he's going to be hurt. And a lot of these trainers train with whips in their hands, and people might see that and think that it's to beat the horse or do something cruel, but it's not. They're just, as Rex Peterson says, it's like a conductor's baton.
Right.
It gives the horse a visual cue, and it can do a lot of things with the whip, of positioning it on the ground or pointing different places, so that the horse gets a stronger visual cue than just seeing somebody waving their arms. And
that makes sense. It's an extension of their hand, and then hands too.
Exactly, it's an extension of their hand, their arms, and the horse is just not going to. As Rex Peterson said, he was talking about a scene in Horse Whisperer when Hightower was way out in a field, and he has to come to Robert Redford across this field, and Rex, of course, is behind the scenes calling the horse to him. He says, if I were to hurt this horse when he's out in 2,000 acres, and I call him to come, he wouldn't be coming.
He'd go the other way.
Run away.
Yeah.
Talking about running away, I know he also carried Julia Roberts on the Runaway Bride scene, so he's also got another credit to him, the horse, in that scene.
Yes, absolutely, and there's a great story to that, where Julia Roberts in Runaway Bride runs away from her wedding, a horseback wedding, and she runs away on Hightower, and they were filming that on the East Coast, and by the time it came to the end of the film, the director got the idea that they wanted to do another scene with Julia on Hightower. Now she's happily getting married, or she's happily with Richard Gere, and they wanted to do a scene with the two of them riding together happily. And she wanted to ride Hightower again. Well, the only problem was Hightower was back in California working on another show, and Rex Peterson got a call in the middle of the night, and the producers of Runaway Bride said, "Oh, no, we want him on the set Monday morning." And Rex said, "Well, that's just physically impossible. I can't get him there. He's 3,000 miles away." And they said, "Well, we're sending a FedEx airplane." Actually,
FedEx delivers, huh?
Across the country. Yeah. So that Julia Roberts could ride him again at the end of the movie, and it's a fabulous scene, and it really does. It's a wonderful bookend for the movie.
Yeah, another scene I think all the horse lovers here have seen in the movie is The Man from Snowy River. I always wondered about that scene where the actor Tom Burleson is riding the horse down that seems like a vertical cliff, and I always wonder, is that a stunt? Was it enhanced or whatever? But to find out in your book, it was actually a real stunt. I mean, and the actor rode that horse, so that was
that wasn't done with motion picture trickery, right?
No, that was amazing, because I always wonder. I mean, he's just going down that cliff, just leaning back on that horse in that saddle, braking, going through trees and limbs. I always wondered, my God, how did he stay on? But yeah, it was actually the actor riding that horse, and I
think they may have tilted the camera a little bit, really.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yep, I think so.
Being a photojournalist, you know those tricks too, don't you?
Yeah, I think they might have enhanced it just a little bit.
Yeah. Well, Petrine, we really appreciate so much you sharing many points from your book, all the excellent research you did, and putting everything together in such a fine way, and really driving home the point of, I guess we could say, treat the horse well, number one. The movies have really engendered a lot of love of the horse in others, and sometimes they don't know how to treat the horse. Almost reminds me of like the 101 Dalmatians, and the little Johnny goes and gets a little Dalmatian and takes him home, and then, doesn't know how to treat him. But we appreciate your hard work with the humane treatment of horses. We're all for that as
absolutely.
Well. And all the fine points you've brought out. An excellent book. We highly recommend it to our listeners, Amazon.com. And thank you. Thank you so much.
Another thing I do want to say before we close.
Sure.
Is, in talking about the humane treatment of horses, is that the American Humane Association, which is the organization that monitors performing animals and children, has they were just instrumental in the making of this book. They were very, very helpful. They had a lot of archival photographs that they lent to me for the book, and they just were extremely helpful in giving information. And they also have a website, American Humane Association, which is different from Humane Society, and listeners can go on their website, and there's a lot of information about films with animals and how things are done, how stunts are done. So if there's a movie that's coming out that you're curious about, or a movie you just saw and you're thinking, oh gosh, that looked like that horse got hurt, you can go on their website and check it out, and there's a lot of information on exactly how these scenes were accomplished. So they're a wonderful organization, and they're very, very vigilant and really care about all animals, but particularly horses, because they get used so much in movies.
Yeah, that's outstanding to know that they have somebody looking after them too, in addition to obviously the great trainers out there that are believing in the natural horsemanship method and having that relationship with them.
They're a wonderful organization, and you're a wonderful guest. We really appreciate all the fine points you brought out. The listeners are going to love this.
Absolutely.
And keep up the excellent work, Petrine. We sure appreciate it.
Yeah, we do. And let us know when it becomes a documentary, because that would be an excellent. We look forward to seeing that in the film version of your book.
Well, thank you. I'm hoping to get it done in the next few years. It's a labor of love, but I'm working on it. So thank you so much for your support and your enthusiasm, and I'm really grateful that I had this time to spend with you.
Our pleasure.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Hello, I'm Mr. Ed.
A horse is a horse, of course, and no one can talk to a horse, of course. That is, of course, unless the horse is the famous Mr. Ed. Go right to the source and ask the horse. He'll give you the answer that you endorse. He's always on a steady course. Talk to Mr. Ed.
Wow, what a very interesting author and a horsewoman herself, coming from a very distinguished Hollywood legendary actor family. And yet you can see her real love for horses there with Petrine Mitchum, huh?
Oh, absolutely. And was that her book is absolutely beautiful. I mean, she did a beautiful job of capturing the horse's role throughout history as far as the movies, and beautiful pictures, beautifully said. And yeah, it takes a special individual to put something together like that. I mean, here's somebody that's obviously very creative. She's a director herself, a writer for a horse, as far as a writer, for a Horse Illustrated, has her horses and stuff, and just a very interesting individual, artistic, but at the same time, you have to be very detailed to put that type of book together. Yeah?
Lots and lots of research went into that. Hollywood Hoofbeats, Trails Blazed Across the Silver Screen. Indeed, so many interesting individuals of the past, and then she brings it up to more modern day too.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff covered there.
Oh, she didn't miss any horses. I mean, I think anybody picks up the book and you could find your all-time favorites. And I didn't even know about this, the Lone Ranger. You know, I grew up watching it, and of
Hi-Ho
course,
Silver.
Yeah, and Hi-Ho Silver was a Tennessee Walker.
Oh yeah,
that's amazing. So you
Wow.
got Trigger being a Walker,
Yeah.
the second Trigger, and then the Lone Ranger, and so that's really good to see Walkers, having dating back to so long to being famous movie horses.
Yeah, very, very interesting. And I'm sure that the listeners are really going to love hearing all about that one.
Absolutely.
All right, well, there's show number 12 with Petrine Mitchum, a really great material from her book, Hollywood Hoofbeats, Trails Blazed Across the Silver Screen, who is in line for our next show, number 13.
Well, we're excited. We're going to be talking all about Big Red, also known as Secretariat, who is the greatest racehorse ever, and we're going to have the president of Secretariat and also the spokesperson for Penny Chenery, owner of Secretariat, it'll be Leonard Lusky. So we're really excited about that because I think we all could relate to the greatness and great moments of Secretariat as a racehorse.
So, folks, thanks for tuning in, as they say, and be sure to be watching for our next episode coming soon.
Until then, happy trails, everybody.
Hey, Raphael, I bet you can't do this.